Oh my God.
Welcome into the PHNX podcast, brought to you by the one and only DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. I'm Leah Merrill here with Craig Morgan. As always, Petey is calling in live from New York City, and we are joined today by a very special guest, former strength and conditioning coach for the Arizona Coyotes and current director of performance at Exos, JP Major. Welcome to the PHNX Coyotes podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here and making us all look bad, JP.
I know. There's got to be a rule. Like, there's got to be like a handsome quotient, and like if the bar's set pretty low for Craig and I, and no one over that bar should be allowed in the studio. I'm just saying.
And we got nervous,
especially when I can't be there.
We restocked we did a Costco run yesterday. Restocked the snacks, and there's some Oreos and Nutter Butters, and we heard you're a bit of a health nut, so we were a little worried.
Questionable there.
We got some donut boxes out in the office. We got some cookies.
So you did see the snacks, JP?
I've spent enough time around Petey to know what goes on.
I know.
I'm liking
but
this
here's
chair,
the difference,
Petey,
though. The difference, though, I know. Don't get too comfortable there, JP.
I like the little
difference,
cartoon
though, is
heads, though, too. I kind of want one of those.
I know. Do not get comfortable.
No.
The difference, though, is Craig and I's diet is not necessarily as important as a professional athlete's diet. So I understand our treats may be a little different than the snacks you provide to the players, and that's okay. I'm glad you made it, JP. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me, guys.
Well, we wanted JP to join today because the NHL Scouting Combine is going on this week currently, and obviously we're looking ahead to the draft. It's an important time for the Coyotes this year, especially, and I've always we see the pictures of the testing, but why? What is going on there? Really, what's the day-to-day look like? So we thought we'd invite JP in to kind of give us an inside look as someone who's attended the Scouting Combine before. So should we just kick it off?
Yeah, start with that question.
What the heck goes on at the NHL Scouting Combine? What is its purpose, and what are teams looking for?
It's a lot, so and it kind of depends, I think, on obviously the team, the culture, the level or the number of draft picks, where you're at in the draft. But everything from obviously the physical objective measures that you're pulling from the data that you're getting at the combine down to even the way that the players interact on the bench prior to coming out for their tests. One of the really probably things that people wouldn't think about is, watching how the players talk with each other. Are they, socially there? Are they just sitting quietly by themselves? Are they constantly in a phone? Can they, can they socialize normally? Outside of that, everything from, the objective numbers that we're pulling off of force plates, the aerobic and anaerobic assessments to the more subjective stuff, like how does this guy utilize his angles in certain movement assessments? How would that look on the ice? What is the quality of movement? What is their posture like? Certain things like that, down to, what very subjective and a lot of guesswork, but what might their growth potential look like? What's the size of their wrists, their ankles, their bones, their current kind of girth measurements, and all that is, you're taking in and just taking rampant notes as you're watching these athletes walk on stage.
I've always wondered what that's like for a player to basically just, forgive me for being indelicate, like basically being a piece of meat at the scouting combine, to have things like your wrists being measured. Is it bizarre for the players, or they just take it all in because it's, it's standard ops for everybody that's there?
Yeah, I can imagine it's probably a sliding spectrum of athletes being super comfortable being on stage, and like that's kind of their nature. Like, I'm out here to perform. But some of them that's not really their game, right? The more skilled, kind of skinnier guys, that they're maybe a little bit more shy to show what they've got from a physical standpoint. And that's why I really like the body language and kind of how a guy handles himself in those moments. Is it more of a growth mindset? Is he looking to, show off, even, if this isn't his top quality, what he's got, versus a guy that's very kind of introverted and hunched over and quiet and, no confidence. Like, what are you working with there? So.
Does it get as far? Are there times where like guys are basically wearing shorts and nothing else? I mean, it's got to be a little weird for these guys just to be ogling. You mentioned the guys who haven't developed yet. We've heard stories about guys who could even do a single pull up.
Yeah.
It's got to be. I'm just curious what that whole thing looks like, and if it's very structured or if it's more just chaotic.
Well, it's changed over the years. It was just shorts, and then they would remove their t-shirts as they come on stage. It's different than the NFL Combine, where they get down to a pair of slider shorts and literally stand up in front of everybody and do a 360. Like it's like
unreal,
which is fairly uncomfortable for a lot of guys, even if you're
right.
Enjoy the spotlight. Now they're wearing tighter compression shirts. Typically, guys have the option of wearing the cutoff tighter compression shirt or a t-shirt. And then they just wear, a normal set of like trainer shorts. And so it's changed. I think probably for the better. We still have the ability, or the coaches and the scouts still have the ability to see, is this athlete more physically developed? Are they a little bit skinnier? But, we don't really necessarily need them to have their shirts off and in the sliders and whatnot.
JP, I know. Just trying to get my touches here. So, JP, have you seen the evolution of players from when you first started going to the combine until later, in the later years, that kids are like this, like Craig mentioned it, this is just part of the normal, and guys are ready and they're preparing for these tests. And even on top of that, they're more physically prepared, like more physically fit than when you first started?
I mean, there's trends that have stayed the same. Typically your guys that have played in college, or with the development programs, they come in more physically developed. They have more experience in a weight room. I don't think that has changed. The guys that come in from playing junior are typically a little bit smaller, but the emphasis on the actual assessments, it looks like they've, somebody showed them how to jump. Somebody's worked with them on a pull-up. So there is more of a focus of, prior to the combine, I need to know how to do these certain things. I need to get at least a little bit of training. Whereas early on assessing these guys, you're like, man, nobody's taught this kid how to jump. Nobody's taught this kid how to, set up for a pull-up. So literally no experience in a gym. There are things that have changed, certainly, but there are some things that have held true.
So what does an average day look like at the combine? Because it's going on this week. It's the May 30th to June 4th. So that's, quite a few days. What's just an average day like?
Well, so they split up the testing into 2 days, and then the interviews, obviously, on the following day, and the main performance day. They're doing interviews that day as well. So are you talking as the strength and conditioning coach?
Yeah,
okay.
I guess from your point of view.
So oftentimes it depends on the club, again, where they fall in the draft, how many picks they have, because I might have 40 guys that they're looking to evaluate versus somebody else's team that might look at 5. So if that's the case, I get an order of testing that the athletes are going to come in. If I've got 40, I'm looking at them, okay, these guys at VO2 at this time, FMS at this time, and I'm trying to, place myself strategically up front so I can see these guys. It might be 7 a.m. I'm going to start with VO2 with, this handful of guys. I'll watch that. I'll take some notes, obviously mark down their scores. And then I have a grading sheet that I would put together that encompassed all of the objective information paired with some subjective notes that also had feedback for the scouting questions that we would get ahead of time. So I'd sit and watch VO2s for hours. Try and grab a snack or lunch when you can, but it's literally like 6 or 7 hours of watching guys ride a bike.
Wow.
Which isn't the most fun thing in the world, but
seriously,
the following day, not super exciting. The following day is a lot more exciting. That's where they're doing the broad jump, the vertical jump, the Wingate test, the 5-10-5, all the, I guess more specific assessments, and you can really pull a lot more information there. And the other piece that I really liked, that I think was probably unique to the Coyotes and maybe a few other clubs, but was being able to be a part of those interviews and having a place to ask the athlete, like kind of what their nutrition habits are. What have they done? Like a lot of these guys come in, they say, well, you know, my game's there. I'm really strong here. And, you know, I'm a 200-foot player. All I need to do is get a little bit bigger and stronger. And so I'd follow that up with, you know, like, well, what are you doing to do that? You know, what are you doing to get better there? They'd be like, well, you know, I go to the gym, you know, twice a week and, you know, I work out, I do yoga with, you know, a friend or something like that. I'm like, so you've got a shooting coach, a skating coach, skills coach, and all these, you know, different aspects that you've well-rounded yourself, but you're just doing yoga with your brother on the side. And you're saying the only thing keeping you out of the NHL is your physical development. And then you have the guys that are like, I'm on a structured program. I'm working with a trainer. You know, so it really gives you some insight as to like, you know, are they matching their, you know, their planning with the goals that they say that they're trying to achieve.
I want to go a little granular on this, and you and I talked about a study that's out there. The Journal of Sports Physiology and Performance found that peak leg power and aerobic capacity are the best predictors of early career success and entry into the league. First of all, do you agree with that? Are there specific tests that you say, if the guy's good at this, he's probably got a better shot at the NHL, or is that overreading things?
No, I think you could put some stock in that. I mean, obviously it's a strength power game. You need to have the ability to recover quickly from repeated sprint intervals, which is, you know, your aerobic capacity that we're measuring on the VO2. We're getting an idea of their, you know, their max output and lower body power and strength in the force plate jumps, the broad jumps, and the wing gait assessment. And those, you know, if we have to develop those things over the next 3 or 4 years in a game where like you're relying upon those things, obviously they're not going to have immediate success, or they're less likely to have immediate success. Whereas these guys that have that part of their game harnessed, or their that physiological skill set, and it might just be, you know, working with a skating coach to harness those things, a lot easier to jump right in.
JP, these are athletes and they're used to performing under pressure, but this is a different kind of event. This is basically their future in many ways. At least they probably think it's their future riding on the line of their performance at the combine. How do you relax these guys? You know, just get them to understand, okay, it's just the combine. It's not the end of the world if you don't perform here. How do you get them to relax and maybe get into a mindset where they can perform to their best?
Well, I don't. You know,
Yeah.
I don't have any contact with the athletes prior to their performance and their assessments. And that's kind of a good thing. Like, I want to see how they respond to it naturally, like without somebody calming them down and whatnot. How do they handle it themselves? So like I was saying, all of the subjective things that I'm trying to read from these athletes, I'm taking notes on, and, you know, trying to make sense of, you know, how they would handle, you know, a different spotlight.
Yeah.
So, but the guys that are good at it, I think, just have fun with it and really compete like it's no different than they're on the ice.
Okay.
JP, one of the things we talked about is, you know, you mentioned it. These are 17-year-old kids turning 18. You talked about the NFL Combine, and those athletes are college, older, more physically mature. In your role, do you have to look through it a little bit and go, gosh, this kid could be this, or he's a good hockey player, he's okay conditioning wise, but I know if I get him on the right program, I can propel him to here. Do you have to kind of be able to predict the future a little bit in the NHL?
Yeah. It's a very difficult thing to do. And it's a great question. That's often the biggest thing that a scout will ask is, this guy's game is there. He's very cerebral. He can read the plays well, and, you know, plays in a system, all these things, but he's just not big enough. Is he going to grow? And that's where it's, you know, it's obviously difficult. And you try to look even into, you know, brothers, sisters, parents, everything that you can to get any sort of indicator as to like what type of growth potential. And that's where we might look at like wrist size or ankle size, you know, even just like shoulder width. What type of frame do they have? Are they more of an ectomorph, is kind of like a skinny, much leaner athlete, versus an endomorph that's a little bit more body fat? Those types of things tell us like
Craig and me.
Craig and I.
Well, easy, buddy.
Not necessarily.
Easy, buddy. We're on a diet right now.
What?
Some of these younger, I mean, obviously, like you said, 17, 18 years old, they still have some baby fat. And if they have a decent frame, you're like, well, this kid looks like, you know, he just has no muscle. That'll develop over the next, you typically don't reach, you know, peak testosterone or peak physical potential until you're, mid to late 20s. So these guys are a ways from that. And so really trying to read what type of body they have and what type of frame size they have, it's not a perfect science, but you can get a decent idea.
So we've seen in the past, players not be able to perform the exercises, the famous story of like Sam Bennett, I think it was, not being able to do a pull-up. Does that carry weight, or is it more about their potential and maybe more of like the interviews and off-ice stuff?
Well, again,
or not off ice, but you know what I mean.
It's just a piece of the puzzle, right? If the guy puts the puck in the back of the net, that's really what matters at the end of the day. But the other things that you're trying to factor in are, one, you're trying to eliminate any red flags. If this guy flat out can't do an assessment, it's one red flag. Yeah. Now, if you're chalking up 3-4, the guy's got a bad attitude in the interview, he doesn't give a crap about any of this stuff, pardon my language, then it's probably an issue there. However, if they're going to do one and they're a strong player, the strength actually translates onto the ice, but they're just not weight room strong. That's another thing to think about. What type of game does he play? Is he going to have to adapt to something? Again, it's, like looking at maybe multiple strikes, or the other way. Like, this guy checks all the boxes, but this one, I'm not as worried about it.
Yeah. Especially with
one of the things,
go ahead.
You talked about the test, and we talked about riding the bike. And by the way, if you're missing that, Craig did get a Peloton for Christmas. So if you want to watch someone do their VO2 test, we can all go to Craig's house to do that.
We're a long way from me doing that.
We talked about this on the show before. Hockey's played on ice. The NFL Combine, they're played on a field, and they run and they do all their exercises on the field. The NHL Combine, they just play in the gym. Would you like to see players do on-ice testing? What are your thoughts on on-ice testing? I know you did that a lot when you were with the Coyotes. It was an important piece of the training and getting guys back through rehab models, was being on the ice, and you were heavily involved in that. Would you like to see skating be a portion of what they do currently at the Combine?
That's a great question. And I'm sure you'd get a lot of answers if you asked a number of different strength and conditioning coaches or scouts or coaches or anybody in the organization. But to me, you're trying to measure the physiology, and there's so many variables that come into play when you're on the ice. So the skating ability, you're not measuring the true, physiology there, especially if you're implementing things like turns and stops and starts. I just want to see what type of energy systems this athlete is, or how well they're developed their energy systems are, and how well they recover. That's difficult to do on the ice. Now, in a team setting, it's important to do those things because, like you said, if I have an athlete that gets injured or gets a concussion, and I know what type of score they're getting from an external load standpoint on a skating drill, and I know how they perceive it as well from an internal load, like a heart rate, I can work to approach those values to get them back to baseline and get them back out and playing again. Whereas, in a combine, I want to look at their game film. I think, to me, that's their on ice assessment, is going and watching them play, watching their film. You can watch how a guy back checks. You can watch how a guy battles in the corners. That gives you an idea of strength, how they use their angles. And that's what you really want to know from on the ice.
So has there been any push for that?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was a little discussion, at like our meetings and whatnot, but it didn't gain a ton of traction. I think for that reason alone. You also have to factor in that some of these guys are coming straight out of Mem Cup, and some of these guys have been off for weeks. So the different time period that they're coming in, and maybe coming off of injury or anything like that, that's going to play a factor in those assessments.
Before we continue on with questions, I just want to remind everyone to check out the DraftKings Sportsbook app. I certainly did last night during the crazy game one. I literally live bet the over 13.5 in the second period, and it hit in the last 23 seconds. Thank you, Gabriel Landeskog, for that one. The lines were changing literally by the second. So the DraftKings Sportsbook app has you covered. The NBA playoffs are also going on right now, and DraftKings is an official sports betting partner of the NBA. And right now, new customers can make any $5 NBA bet and get $150 in free bets instantly. And this NBA season, a customer placed a $5 same game parlay and won over $5,000. So, if you get those free bets, just sprinkle them on some same game parlays and make yourself some money. So be sure to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code PHNX. Make any $5 bet during the NBA Finals and get a $150 in free bets instantly. That's promo code PHNX only at the DraftKings Sportsbook app, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. That's 21 and over. Arizona only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. I wanted to ask, do you have any crazy stories from the combine? Have you seen kids throw up? Anything that stands out though, besides just that as, a notable moment from your time at the combine?
Yeah. I mean, obviously a lot of guys throw up in certain assessments, and specifically the wing gate. That's always
what is that?
Yeah.
So the wing gate is just a max effort. It started as a true wing gate is 30 seconds all out, as hard as you can push against a specific resistance.
Okay.
On the bike.
On the bike. Yep. However, I believe it was probably 4 or 5 years ago, the NHL Combine pivoted to a 45-second wing gate that's actually broken up into chunks where they would go 5 seconds on, 10 seconds off, 10 seconds on, 5 seconds off, 5 seconds on, 5 seconds off, 5 seconds on, done. So the ability to repeat sprint efforts and recover from them and maintain a certain output. But it's crushing. It is very, very
horrible.
hard. It is. It's 30 seconds. That's easy, but
no,
it is literally. It feels like an eternity when you're on it.
Yeah.
And it is everything you have.
What sort of resistance are we talking?
It's moderate. It's not like you're in the sand. It's you're still able to push some serious some serious RPMs, but you're looking at wattage and absolute wattage. So how much power can an athlete put out absolute versus relative as well? So if I have a littler guy, of course they're not going to put out thousands and thousands of watts, but I might look at watts per kg body weight, and it says relative to this athlete's body weight, he's actually putting out a ton of power.
Okay.
So you want to talk about people throwing up? You can just join some of our PHNX staff on the weekends at Old Town, because it seems to be a reoccurring theme for several of our stuff. Hey,
that's not
Leah.
true. We can hold our alcohol.
So speaking of vomit.
Oh God.
What do they do it? Did they bring buckets out for these guys wrestling, or
there's trash cans that are specific for that.
Wow.
So centered around
trash can.
They're just there, and they have somebody there to catch them, and it's the VO2. I mean, if a guy pushes for a long VO2, typically you're going to see either them just like laying on the ground for a significant amount of time afterwards, or they're going to go over to the bucket and lose it. The wing gate, is the other station where you see it. That's really it.
So they have to replenish after that, don't they? I mean, you're losing.
But again, it kind of comes down to, sometimes it's like nerves. Sometimes they've been, they ate something right before they did the test.
Something that isn't JP Major approved.
No, it could be anything, but even like a lot of water, right?
Okay.
But
the liquid in your stomach.
Like your stomach just is like, okay, I need to prioritize blood flow to all of my working muscles and recovery, and I can't focus on digestion, so I'm going to lose this, and the body's going to prioritize, what it needs to do in the moment, and it's not going to be digesting that food, so it's going to get rid of it.
Yikes!
I think one of the things that's interesting too, and people probably may think they know, but they don't know, is how involved people like JP are, not just at the combine, but in the day-to-day workings of an NHL athlete, and how much strength and nutrition is beyond just what they're eating. Like, it's JP, the amount of work and knowledge he has to put into understanding what every athlete needs differently, because Phil Kessel needs something different than Clayton Keller in the calories and what kind of calories and how they're eating and while they're working out. So you have to have all of these custom programs, and the technology that he has available to him now, heart rate monitors and the ability to monitor things in the weight room. JP literally touches every aspect of these athletes' lives, including their sleep. And it's just amazing to see how far the technology has gone. And I just want people listening that this is a part of what happens on the ice is what their heart rates are. And there's reports that go to the coaches. But what JP said was important. It's just a part. It's a piece of everything. Everything has its compartmentalized piece. And this is a really important one. JP, can you kind of just tell us, we talked about the combine, but can you tell us some of the things you do specifically in that role for an NHL athlete, from their diet through their workout programs, like how you handle an athlete?
Sure. I mean, you kind of hit it on the head there. Is, you know, we're around them so much. I mean, in season and off season, getting to go visit guys and talk to them consistently through the off season, but in season, typically we're responsible for at least 2 of their meals. And then again, any sort of post practice, post training, post game nutrition as well. So if we're, you know, able to deliver that, you know, it's got to be a customized piece. So an athlete that might be on a weight gain or weight maintain or weight loss program, the calories have to be adjusted. You also have to think about the amount of energy expended or time on ice, or if they had, you know, multiple sessions that day, be it a workout, a practice session followed by like a skills session, they're going to need obviously more calories to replenish as well. So a lot of them are done ahead of time as a planning process through assessment, body composition, athlete, coach goals, all these types of things. But a lot of them need to be done on the fly as well. Like I said, if a player maybe gets held out after practice to do some extra conditioning, well, I need to be able to throw some more calories in his shake and, make sure he replenishes those calories and those fluids. So he's not dropping weight through the season. He's not losing lean mass. And then understanding how an athlete moves, what their, strengths are and weaknesses. There's a concept I use and a lot of strength coaches use, but training in versus training out. So in season, a lot of times it's more training an athlete to his strengths, and prioritizing those things. If an athlete's really great at squatting or lower push, emphasized movements, I'm probably going to have him do those things more in season, and that complements his game. If an athlete is really poor at those things, I'm probably not going to hit him with them as much in season. 1, it could make him extra sore. 2, it's just not the time or the place. I'm going to try and attack the things he's a little bit, but early off season, that's where I'm going to try and strategically tackle those things. So, yeah. I
wanted to ask you one more thing about the combine before we move on to the bad diet portion of this show.
Hey.
Yeah, you know a lot about this, buddy.
Yeah, me.
With those interviews, you mentioned you got to participate in those. And I know a lot of today's athletes are, when it comes to media or even talking to people, they're kind of programmed to say the same things all the time. You ever get a loose cannon or somebody who surprised you with what they said, or went a little off script, and maybe it was enjoyable, or maybe it was like, wow.
Yeah, you're right. Like, they are so coached, and it was so funny because, when we'd ask the players to describe themselves as a player, especially it's a centerman, or it's like, oh, I'm a 2-way forward, I play, this is my defensive game, this is my offensive game. They've been coached so well at that. It's almost like they carbon copy the answers. You can totally tell the guys that are a lot more authentic, but where we would really see kind of true colors come out and guys go off the cuff a bit is, you say, okay, your defensive game is strong. You might show a couple clips where it's like, oh man, like that does not show a strong defensive skater. Right. And the guy,
how do you explain
they would
this?
Either like, I loved it because you'd have some guys that are like, oh, well, out of the frame, you can't see the guy, but what I was looking to do was send it up, whatever here, or I was trying to cut back here. I actually spoke with my coach. They remember it. Like, they tie a memory to that specific play. I'm like, man, that guy is dialed. That guy's going to get better. He's going to always, level up. Whereas the guy that was like, well, we were up 10-0. Like, well, obviously I'm trying to, I'm like, oh gosh. Or guys would almost get like, this was the part that was a bit tough. Guys could get a little bit emotional and start to like, back down and break down. They're just a little bit like,
wow.
They didn't know how to handle those moments, because it's a real opportunity for an athlete to be like, wow, like, you're right. That's an opportunity for me to get better. Or, the opposite.
Or not. Yeah.
So those are the times, certainly where, or, I'd push on them a little bit if they, gave me that same line of, I feel like I'm there, but I just need to get a little bigger and stronger. I'm like, so you're telling me like, that's the only spot you need to get better and you're not really doing anything about it. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
And guys would sometimes get defensive there, or like I had one kid that was like, you must be the strength guy. I'm like, well, yes, I'm the strength and conditioning coach here. Obviously, nice to meet you. We already met, but
by the way,
he's
what did you mean by that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then he'd be like, well, what do you think I should do? So I was like, I gave him actually my advice. I was like, hey, like obviously you got a strong game here, and if you really think this is the only thing you need to do, here's what you need to seek. You need to find a professional that's going to help you get check these benchmark goals and set some goals with them, and work towards them. Develop a plan. Like it can't just be show up at the gym and do what I want that day or do what feels good. That's that's working out. It's not training. So.
All right, should we go unhealthy now?
Well, it's so funny that we're transitioning because we just got a Slack message from our boss, like that we're having a pizza party today at 12:45. So I hope you can stick around, JP.
Wait, are we going to rank the pizza on?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I need you guys to just take over now and help me understand the genesis of this pizza conflict.
And here's the reality. First of all, I will say this. JP is, and you've heard him today, he's very intelligent, he's articulate, he understands his business very well. As we have aforementioned, I am not a professional athlete. So my diet is as such. I do not eat the way I probably should be if I were a professional athlete. The diet of a professional athlete in the game of hockey has changed over the last 25 years. It just has, because people are more educated, more knowledgeable on what makes your body better and make your body work. That's just a fact. When I first started working in the National Hockey League, pizza was prevalent. Shane Doan would have ice cream at a team meal. Those things are real. It's true. There was Coca-Cola. It was there. That is no longer the case. Things evolved and they got better for your health because people understood the body better. JP and I would have differing opinions on what should be served post-game. Only because of me. Like, I'm selfish. I didn't care about the athlete. I just wanted to eat pizza after a game. I didn't want a chicken Caesar wrap. That's all. And so, again, I didn't care what the athletes did, or it wasn't about the professional athlete. It was literally about me, and I wanted to have pizza. So JP and I had a few discussions about pizza after games.
Yeah.
And JP was right. I was wrong. And I will admit that now.
We're going to give JP a moment here, Petey, to retort here.
I was wrong.
There were times where I specifically ordered pizza just for you.
I know you did. That's true.
Or where you would just order pizza.
I would, but JP just said I was a dick. Like, there was absolutely, you're talking about 10 days on the road. I'm tired. I'm hungry. Yeah. So
I get it.
So
at the end of the day,
I apologize.
Yeah, no. I enjoed every minute with you. Don't ever apologize. You're being true to your authentic self.
I do. I miss it.
Same.
It was fun.
So post game, you've been to the Centre Bell, and they serve the hot dogs, and they bring those down for the players after. Like, what are you thinking as a strength conditioning coach when you see a guy wolfing down hot dogs after a game?
It's an 82-game season. There's a middle ground for everything. You have to make compromises. We talked about this a little bit before going on the shows. Like, you might have a 38-year-old veteran and a 19-year-old rookie that you've got to, play the field to all these athletes. So you got to be educating and, developing good habits with the young athlete, but also like show them the history of the game. There's so much to that of understanding the culture, the Chen Show. Yeah,
you got it.
And obviously I've had a lot of them in Montreal, but like Phillies and Philly, Buffalo Wings in Buffalo, there's tradition things that but you find the right opportunities. We call them our 20% days, where 80% of the time we're eating for nutrition, for refueling, for the right things. 20% of the time we need to allow ourselves to, indulge in some of these traditions, some of the things just eat to make us happy. And there are optimal times, right? Typically post game, when it's a crucial window to get the right calories in and the right nutrients into your system. Pizza being more of a greasy, like at one point we're getting calories, we're getting carbohydrates in. there was nothing better. It was just a quick, it was affordable. It was one, you have to get through security, right? You have to get food in through security. There wasn't always good food in the buildings, and the pizza guy, for some reason, could always make an order, right? that always made it easy. But as there have become like more available options in these cities that are delivering, and work with teams, it made it easier and easier. What we really landed on that I think we were really successful with, especially on the road, was doing like big, hearty shakes that were a little bit more individualized to the athlete. Again, higher calories for the athletes that are more on a weight gain or weight maintain program. It might be just what you needed for the guys that were just trying to maintain weight. But that gives them an opportunity to still drink something cold after the game, which is a lot of times what they want. They're also getting rehydrated. They're getting the carbohydrates and the protein quantities that they need. And we could individualize flavors. And guys like Shane Doan, he was one of the guys that was on, he loves chocolate ice cream. And so we made a chocolate smoothie that kind of seemed a little bit like ice cream, and he loved that. And that's enough to sustain them until we either get to the hotel for a quality post-game meal or to the plane where we would have something ordered that's actually a pretty quality airplane meal. So that was the best compromise. And then,
but you got to remember too, Craig, that these guys hadn't eaten. Like their pregame meal is at 1:30 in the afternoon. They might have a light snack at late afternoon, but that light snack is some fruit, a bagel, something very, very light, some oatmeal or a soup, something like. They haven't eaten since 1:30, and now they've exerted all of this effort. They need to eat. So to JP's point, the food on the plane was always unbelievable. Like, I will say, as much as I joked about the pizza, there was always good quality, healthy food available. And just funny watching how the snacks and the stuff that was available around the rink started to change over the last 15, 20 years. How it got from, we used to have pop in the fridge inside the locker room. That was a thing. You could grab a Coke. There isn't Coke in the locker room at the Coyotes right now. At least I don't think so.
Connor Garland calls it poison.
I don't work there anymore. So it is just funny, the evolution. And what the most important thing that people need to take away from this is what JP brought about is that education, like, because you can't be with the player 24/7.
Yeah.
So his job was to educate him. Here are the good choices. Here's the good way to prepare both on and off the ice. Here's the best way to sleep. I'll give you the facts. I'll give you the studies. I'll give you the reasons why. And then you're an adult. So you figure it out. We're just not going to provide it for you here at the rink. And once I heard that as a lesson, JP's not telling me, hey, you can't go have a hamburger. He's just saying the team's not going to provide it for you. And so I think that's an important distinction too. All he can do is teach you, educate you, and provide you with those options. And then it's up to the athlete to become a professional athlete. And there's some that can't do it. There's some that don't dedicate themselves to it, and they're not playing anymore. So if you want to decide this is my job, I need to be really good at it, I take that information and I'm going to do it to my fullest. Those are the guys that stick around in the league for a long time. So I think that's an important thing to take away from this.
Do you know when guys come back from the summer, which guys, is it obvious? Okay, you didn't stick with your program.
Yeah, I mean, that's what fitness testing is for.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a benchmark at a certain time of year, every year, to see, where a guy stands with you. And that's why we keep them consistent. We do things the same way to measure that progress over time.
Are most guys pretty consistent with it? Are they devoted
nowadays,
to it?
it used to be that guys showed up at training camp to get into shape.
Right.
Now guys are hardly taking time off, which, the pendulum swings too far to each direction. And so, as I'm a massive proponent of obviously staying active, staying in shape, not letting yourself go, but you need to get away from the gym and away from the structure for a bit after the season. And there are some guys that even have a hard time doing that now. They're so structure oriented that they need that, consistent, and that's not healthy either. So I'll tell guys, like, you go, play tennis, play golf, whatever, do, little yoga, Pilates, different things that are going to help maintain your lean muscle mass, are going to help you maintain your flexibility, maintain a decently healthy diet, especially then, and then start training again. Give yourself some time to relax, regenerate, refocus, and then dial it in. And those guys that follow that program typically show up to camp the most refreshed, the most prepared, and just the most dialed in. There are very few that still wait till the end to be like, oh, I really got to hit the panic button and go, 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 go. Most of them show up at camp pretty dang good shape. So
you can't outwork a bad diet, Leah. You can't outwork
can't
a
out-train
bad diet.
There you go. Like that one.
I have to ask something that's come up multiple times before we started recording it earlier this week. Guitars. You and your guitar, Petey and his guitar. We need to know.
Yeah, JP, you didn't bring your guitar in. I thought you were going to play.
JP, can I say what JP stands for? Is that a thing or is that private? It's John Paul, which is half of the members of the Beatles. And if they needed to add a member, JP could probably do it. I dabble, I can play chords, and I can have fun at a campfire with a couple of beers. JP is actually really freaking good at this. And to, again, add on to the annoying things about JP, this handsome, good-looking, fit, tattoos, all of those things. And he plays guitar really, really well. So he would travel with a guitar. And like, you got to imagine, we're traveling 10 days. You're carrying suitcases and briefcases. And here's JP with a goddamn guitar. You're like, really? Really? You're bringing this through?
I packed throwing this on the bus? Of the guitar, right? And it's a smaller, like, travel guitar. But
he did. He had a travel guitar. No kidding. And he would go on the road to guitar places to play guitar on free time. And I like guitar. I have a good guitar, not a great guitar, a good guitar for my level of playing. JP collects them, and he knows a lot. I ask him what kind of strings I should get. Like, he knows that kind of stuff. He's really, really good. And he would sit there and go, oh, yeah, I went to the Guitar Center here today. And I'm like, well, I took a nap and watched Netflix. So good on you, JP. No, but he's an outstanding guitar player, and I'm so jealous.
Not great. First of all, I'm also just a campfire guitar player, and for my kids, I'll play anything for my kids. But yeah, it was just a great, like you said, if we're on the road for 10, 11 days and we may have 2 days off, and like I lose my mindset, so I'll either read or I'll play guitar quietly in my room, and it's just a good, little pastime. And I had a number of players that, especially like long-term rehab cases, that guys are like, oh man, like, I really want to learn how to play guitar. I'll show them a couple things like here or there. So that was always really fun too. As guys got really into it and interested. But yeah,
strength conditioning and musical coach.
It's a nice like mental kind of checkout, especially those long-term rehab cases where it's just monotonous and they need to check out for moments. I'm like, this is a great relaxation tool. It's frustrating as heck sometimes, but
yeah.
It's.
You ever play publicly?
No
gigs or anything. Because Petey was saying you played on street corners and the proceeds went to
they're trying to raise money for the Tempe Arena right now.
We could put on a show together. I think
there's plenty of guys playing out on the street here, so maybe I can join them.
Man. No, I did, like when I was younger, not like a ton of show. I did one like bar show, and then I did some small little garage deals when I was like in high school and stuff.
What do you play?
Like what style? Like I play a lot of folk
bands.
music.
Okay. Yeah. Any favorite artists or?
Yeah. I mean, I like.
He's off the wall a little bit. Like he's got some obscure guys.
There would be a lot that people would know.
No.
Yeah.
But give a new artist. Give somebody to listen to.
We like or I like Shaky Graves is a
good
artist.
acoustical guitar playing guitar player.
I really like his style. So that's one.
There you go. See, Craig, you learned something new today. Do you do anything, Craig? Do you do drums? What do you got? Anything?
I got nothing, buddy.
No. Crickets?
Tambourine? Harmonica.
I did the recorder in the fourth grade.
Bending a note is really hard on a harmonica.
Yeah, it is.
And that's kind of the basic thing you need before you can do anything else. And,
oh my gosh.
Full stop.
Oh my gosh. Yep. Well, wrapping up, we talked about the fact that you're now at Exo. So can you explain a little bit about what you're doing there?
Sure.
Just
different, but really, really exciting stuff. So I'm working as a director of performance with a company called Exos, which is, we have kind of our hands in a lot of different places, from corporate wellness to, elite NFL Combine prep and off-season training for NFL vets, NHL vets, all these different things. But I specialize in the pro elite space, working to essentially design the programs we deliver in facility. So things like our NFL offseason program, how we utilize technology to program against and work with the athletes to train against those types of things. It's very exciting.
Leah, you should see this facility, Leah. Like he's not describing it. It is phenomenal. It's like a little college campus for superheroes. Like it's really cool. Like they have literally everything to help an athlete and any kind of athlete. From softball, volleyball to football and basketball and literally everything in between. This facility is amazing. They've got a full kitchen there where they cook meals. They've got a supplement area where you get your shakes and supplements. They've got gyms. They got outdoor tracks. They got classrooms where you can learn. It's phenomenal. It's a really, really cool place. And it's got to be a fun place to go to work every day because it is really, really cool. And you're sitting in the little cafeteria area with professional athletes from across the board in all kinds of different sports. So it's a really, really, he's underselling it. This is an overwhelmingly cool professional training facility. It's not like going to the local gym.
Yeah, he's right. It's the idea is it's a holistic model to surround the athlete with everything that they would need.
Yeah.
And it is a full assessment battery coming in to learn everything that we need to know about the athlete to deliver the most custom, well-developed program for the athlete to help them achieve their goals.
JP, how do you reflect on your time in the NHL, and is your life a lot freer from stress now that you're not in the NHL?
Oh,
I know Petey's is.
Yeah. I certainly miss. I miss the guys a lot. I miss. I love like problem solving at a high pace, and that's what it is. Really, it's an 82 game season where you got audible a lot. You got guys that'll block a shot that can't do what you needed them to do after the game to recover, whatever. You just have to make adjustments all the time. You always have to be thinking, and I really like that environment. But you can't beat the stability and I'm actually on paternity leave right now as we just had another kid, but that's
three
something
now, right?
I wouldn't. Yeah. Three beautiful.
Which is why JP
kids.
wanted to come into studio today.
Exactly.
Chaos
it's a little bit chaotic at our house, but honestly, like just the ability to spend the time with my family is, you can't put a price on that. So.
I will say this, Craig, and I've talked about this before. It is truly being on a hamster wheel, and you don't realize how fast you're going and how hard you're working, how stressed you are and how tired you are, because you just keep going and you just keep going. And both JP and I got the opportunity to step off of that wheel. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure if things worked out differently, we'd probably both still be there, but we're not. And now you get to take a deep breath and go, oh shit, there are things called Fridays and Saturdays. And here's my family. And so there is a different way to live. And I'm just blessed the PHNX things came up and it's been fantastic. I miss it too. I miss the people. I miss, JP and I arguing about pizza at 2:00 in the morning in Edmonton. That's fun to me. Like that was, those are good moments that I miss. I miss the people. I don't necessarily miss the grind of it. Because there is a life out there, and I'm glad JP, you look great, and I'm glad you got a chance to stop in and catch up.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, we appreciate it. A lot of great insight and lots of great insights always coming to you from Craig at gophnx.com. So be sure to become a member today. Sign up for an annual membership. Get a shirt when you sign up. You can join our members only Discord as well. Lots of great perks to becoming a member. Craig's latest scouting series installment came out today, and tomorrow. Craig, can you explain what's coming out tomorrow? And
I think everybody knows
what Coyotes fans can get ready for, because tomorrow's a big
Tempe
day.
City Council is going to discuss the Coyotes Arena and Entertainment District proposal. We'll see where it goes. As always, this story has been fluid, but tomorrow I'll just kind of have a primer for you first thing in the morning. Basically, everything you need to know as the city council prepares to discuss this. And obviously this is huge for the Coyotes' future. I think everybody, that's a fan of this team wants to see this go through. It's the perfect location. There's a lot of positives to it, but there are a lot of people working against this deal too. And there's some issues. So we'll see how it goes tomorrow. At any rate, I'll have something tomorrow to set you up for it.
Yep. And, we've been talking about it all week. Craig will be not in Arizona because of course he won't, but we're still going to have coverage, and Craig still will be available on Wi-Fi. So we're going to have people at the city council. We'll have coverage.
You could say Kirsten.
Yes,
Kirsten
Kirsten
Susell's going to be on the
if
ground.
you listen to the story,
We'll have a camera on the ground.
She's well versed in this story, and we'll continue our coverage of it. So be sure to follow along at PHNX_Coyotes on Twitter tomorrow, as well as PHNX Sports across all socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We'll have full coverage of tomorrow there. And if you haven't submitted, the city of Tempe is allowing people to write in their messages, so get those in today. If you want to get your voice heard, it'll be on public record, so you can put your argument together for why you think the proposal should be accepted.
Yeah, do that instead of engaging with the trolls on Twitter. That's my suggestion. There's a lot of Canadian trolls on Twitter lately. So
what time is all this happening, Leah?
2:00 is the e-session. The meeting could end as early as 3:30, maybe as late as 4. But there's also a public session that I've been told will start around 6. So it's hard to say how the day will progress, whether we'll even have an answer after that e-session or if it'll be the public session where we'll actually know. But it's going to be a long day in council chambers tomorrow.
And be sure to be subscribed to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel, because we'll be reacting to whatever goes down tomorrow. As always, another pack therapy session. Add it to the list of all the pack therapy sessions we've been doing. But everyone, thank you so much for watching. JP, thank you again for your time and for coming in. A lot of great insight today. I learned so much. Maybe you should go through our snacks here and
no.
Actually,
I
don't.
just got the snacks.
One more.
That's the 20%.
Yeah, right?
That's
One more thing, though. One more thing, Leah,
More
that
like
you need to
85
do after the show is over. One more thing you need to do. If you could go back to our New Year's Eve show, we all had resolutions.
Oh, God.
Leah had, and now you've been wondering how to do that. He's the guy.
Okay.
He's the guy. Like, ask him if anybody can help you do what you wanted to do for your New Year's. And I'm not kidding. 2 minutes and he'll have it. He'll have you sorted out, and you'll be doing what you said you would do in days. So there you go. I won't bring it up again. If people want to go back and listen to the New Year's show, they can.
Okay. Well, everybody.
And by the way,
what?
When are we going? Like, we're going to be on a show tomorrow?
Yeah, we don't know when.
Yes.
Who knows?
So
we'll be ready to react.
News doesn't conform to schedules, buddy.
Do you just want me to sit in my room?
Yeah,
from 3 o'clock till midnight.
We'll send you a pizza to your
do you have your beeper with you?
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna sit here in my room and wait for you while I'm in New York City. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. More Petey vlog content coming today, by the way. So keep your eye out for that. Everyone, thanks so much for watching. Tomorrow's a big day. We can vent in the Discord, vent on Twitter. We're here for you. And like I said, stay tuned to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. We'll be back tomorrow for all of the chaos as for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see everyone tomorrow.